I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London, but a nasty person.
Ouch. Yeah, he's a nasty person. I mean, that's what Donald Trump, anyone who stands up to him, he's a nasty person. So, farewell then, Donald. He's going to be on his way back to the United States later today after his 4-day visit, mixing golf, diplomacy, goodness knows what else. But I suspect he'll think this has been a hugely successful visit. Particularly, and we'll come to this in a minute, the deal that he has done with the European Union, where you can see what America has got from it, somewhat harder to see what Ursula von der Leyen takes back to Brussels with her.
Yeah, maybe we should start by putting words to some of those really awkward pictures that were on our screens last night. Vic Starmer, Lady Starmer in particular, flanking Trump and looking like she'd been caught in a hostage video, wanting to be anywhere else. And she manages not to nod, not to look directly at him, not to contradict or even get involved in any of the things that he's saying to reporters on the steps there. And if you imagine the scene, Trump is in the middle with the Starmers either side. And there is this dangerous game going on where Keir Starmer is looking like he wants just to get in the door without anyone saying anything dreadful, but he cannot completely take his mind off what Donald Trump is saying in case he says something appalling he needs to step in and correct.
I'm sorry, mateless, you've painted a wonderful picture, but you've left out a really important ingredient of that doorstep.
Yeah.
You could barely hear Donald Trump or Keir Starmer for the bagpiper that Donald Trump had employed, who was right behind, and you could see lips moving and you can just about make out the sounds, but all you can hear is some bloody bagpiper.
And the other point we're missing out about the doorstep is that you've invited the leader of the country to dine in your house in his country. So Starmer has to make his way, not into the official residence in Scotland, not of the prime ministerial sort of, based in Scotland, but Donald Trump's own private quarters for a bit of steak supper.
Well, kudos to Vic Starmer for keeping a straight face
absolutely.
through all of this.
Yeah.
Because, one gets the impression that she doesn't particularly like to be kind of the decorative addition.
Spouse.
Exactly.
I mean, that's putting it mildly. Everything that she's
Trump
done in her whole life would suggest that she can't stand anything that Trump stands for.
Yeah, but she also understands the importance and also recognises, I know, Trump probably fancies me a bit. I'm going to be here and it will help. It'll just smooth the wheels, oil the engine and make things go a little bit easier. And I think that, I'm sure that was Keir Starmer's calculation as well in saying, come on, Vic, you're coming too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we know what is inside Vic Starmer's head. And I don't think we can say for certain that Trump fancies her. But I do think we can say that his MO, and it's this delightful kind of 80s vibe, which is you just have to talk about the ladies, right? The way to flatter a man is to talk well of his wife. And it's without any of the creepiness that we now hear. I don't think Trump realises how creepy he sounds when he's praising Vic Starmer as being a woman whose reputation is known throughout America. I very much doubt that. I mean, all credit to her, and I think she's doing a great job as a silent spouse. I doubt that her reputation across America has preceded her. But this is Trump's way of just kind of getting inside Starmer's head. He thinks he's being flattering. He thinks he's being gracious.
And Starmer understands that. And Starmer, look, we have charted on this podcast all the missteps of Keir Starmer and the things that have been handled terribly. I do think that he is handling Trump with some aplomb. I mean, there'll be those people who say, God, you should have been tougher with him on this and tougher with him on that. But I actually think that, Starmer has built up a rapport with him. Trump knows that Starmer represents a very different breed and brand of politics than his own. But for all that, there does seem to be a respect between the two. There is somewhat less respect that Donald Trump has for the Mayor of London, Sir Sadiq Khan, who once again, apropos of nothing, came in for a kicking.
Fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job, the Mayor of London, but a nasty person. I think he's done it. I think
he's a friend of mine, right?
No, I think he's done a terrible job. But I would certainly visit London.
We did, as you can imagine, reach out to Sadiq Khan to ask if he wanted to respond to some of those allegations on the episode today. And we heard back from a spokesperson for the Mayor of London. Sadiq is delighted that President Trump wants to come to the greatest city in the world. He'd see how our diversity makes us stronger, not weaker, richer, not poorer. Perhaps these are the reasons why a record number of Americans have applied for British citizenship under his presidency. Ouch.
Ouch. Yeah, he's a nasty person. I mean, that's what Donald Trump, anyone who stands up to him, he's a nasty person.
Yeah. So did Starmer equip himself well enough, do you think, by jumping in at that point and saying he's a friend of mine? I mean, it's a very difficult... I thought he chose the words right, because if he'd said, London's great... I don't know what you're talking about. It's an amazing, diverse, vibrant, fantastic city. Then you would have opened the door to all the kind of, stuff that Trump has kind of parroted and repeated before about it being broken and no-go areas and Muslim areas and all the stuff that Starmer didn't really want to hear. So the fact that he was leaping to Khan's defence as a mate, I think probably just got him there. Do you think?
Yeah, I think it was just right. I think it was absolutely right. I think if he had said nothing... while Donald Trump was saying what a nasty person he is and what a terrible job he's done for London,
spineless.
You look really spineless, and it's kind of, you're on the same party, you've known each other for a long time. It would look pretty weak-kneed. I think he did it right. He didn't make a big thing of it. He just said he's a friend of mine, and actually Trump stopped very quickly after that. So I think that was a win for Starmer. I think much more uncomfortable for Starmer. And you'll remember Rachel Reeves in the last budget imposing inheritance tax for farmers, leaving estates above a certain value to their children, which has infuriated farmers up and down the country and has brought protests and tractors into central London. Donald Trump talked about estate taxes for farmers. It's worth listening to what he said, because I think he'll become the patron saint of the National Farmers Union for this.
Well, we ended the estate tax. There is no estate tax on farmers. So when a parent leaves their farm, because again, a lot of these farms, they don't make a lot of money, but it's a way of life, and they love their way of life, and they love that dirt. That dirt is the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. They love it. I mean, they're farmers. They love doing it. They don't know how to do anything else, but they don't want to do anything else. I speak to farmers. I say, would you like to live in my penthouse in Manhattan? It's the most beautiful. No, sir, I want this farm. And what happens is, we were losing a lot of people to suicide. They'd borrow money to pay the estate tax, and they were not able to pay it. And some banks are ruthless. They wouldn't do anything, and they would end up committing suicide. We have totally ended the estate tax in those situations. So there's no estate tax. So when a parent leaves the farm to the kids, they don't have to worry about their local, possibly unfriendly banker coming in and stealing their farm.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of farmers, as you say, nodding along to that, gratefully, actually. And Trump didn't stop at that. He said to Starmer, if you want to stay in power, if you want to beat Nigel Farage next time round, it's pretty simple. You cut taxes and you stop the boats. Now, from where Starmer's sitting, nothing is that simple. But I think the fact that Trump is even speaking to him like that suggests that Trump is slightly invested in Starmer now. He's got this trade deal. He's got his second royal visit, his state visit. And there is something that I think genuinely none of us really understand. But there is a warmth that has come now between the two people, and the fact that Starmer was chosen to be the first deal that Trump did with a foreign country. And you only have to look across now and see the deal that the European Union have got with America, which by anyone's calculations is pretty lopsided. It's terrible for the EU. The EU are now paying 15% on everything, pretty much everything that they export to America. If it's French selling their wines, if it's Germany selling its cars, that is all going to be a lot more expensive for Americans to buy now. And Americans can get their cars into Europe tariff-free, 0. So whichever way you look at this deal, it is completely lopsided. It is an absolute victory for Trump. And it makes the EU, 26, 27 countries look pretty craven, right? Because they've agreed to something that is not in their interests, except if you look at it in the wider context of keeping Trump on side for security issues, for Ukraine, for, the sort of NATO implications of Article 5, for protection and defence, essentially, because they're not getting a trade deal out of this. They're getting anything but.
Yeah, I think that the European Union, it was a surrender document. Yeah. And I think the fear of America was such that they thought, oh, God, 15%, well, it could be 30%. You realise how much leverage, economic leverage, that America has, that Trump has. And for the first time in the White House, there has been a president who has been prepared to use that in a more bullying manner to get what he wants, which is going to be a huge increase in tax revenue, in effect, by the tariffs being paid on European goods being imported into the United States of America. It also leaves Britain in a competitive advantage. You talked about German cars. So what are the big German cars that sell in America in large numbers?
BMW and Mercedes.
BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen. Yeah. The British cars are only going to have a 10% tariff. Yeah. The Aston Martins, the Jaguar Land Rovers. And so there is a competitive advantage for Britain, dare I say it, post-Brexit, that means that our goods are going to go in cheaper. Now, the British haven't got the trade deal completely sorted yet because they haven't got steel and aluminium, and there's still a dispute over pharmaceutical products where America wants to be selling far more pharmaceutical products to the UK.
Far more. Yes, far more pharma. I think the caveat to all this, just as you've said, is that nothing is ever quite what it seems in the press conference. So we still haven't really got our trade deal signed off with America, and it's possible that the EU won't end up in this exact trade deal afterwards. I think you should also recognise, and, world's smallest violin and all the rest of it, but for a lot of Americans, they'll be really pissed off if they're actually having to pay 15% on stuff that they love and take for granted, whether it's foreign foods, European wines, European, luxury items, all the rest of it. I don't think it's just, the Elon Musk billionaires that love German cars in America. I think a lot of Americans will be really unhappy that they're having to pay more on stuff like that. So it could still backfire in a way. But to take you back to April and the kind of chaos that ensued after, Trump's ha-ha Independence Day, it does start to look like there is something of a plan emerging. Whether that's by default or by design, we don't yet know. But it is not the chaos that it felt like that first week of April.
I'd be really interested. I almost want the editors to mark a note in the diary for us to come back to this subject in 1 year's time.
What's happened,
and to see how many cars are being sold from America into Europe. My guess is incredibly few. Are people hankering after a great big Jeep or a Cadillac or any of the big kind of a Suburban? They're huge, great big vehicles on quite small European
tiny little
roads.
cobbled streets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do we want those cars? I'm not convinced that they will sell, even with zero tariffs compared to the tariffs that are on European goods. The other thing I would say...
put a marker in this. What a birthday episode that's going to be.
God, it's going to be a cracking birthday episode, isn't it? The other thing I would say about, what this does for America is prices are still high in America, and Donald Trump hasn't managed to bring them down. The one big beautiful bill has been passed, but it's going down terribly because it seemed to so advantage the super rich. I'm not sure. Donald Trump is starting to win, but don't think it's a slam dunk yet. And, and the other problem that won't go away is Jeffrey Epstein, and that's travelled across the Atlantic with him to Scotland, where he was again asked about drawings. He was also asked about his relationship with Epstein.
And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island. And I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island.
Trump is desperate to escape any more questions about Epstein. The trouble is, in his desperation, he just keeps making the story more and more interesting and garnering more and more journalist questions about it.
Also, kind of when he starts repeating names of people who might have gone there, almost sounds like he's read the dossier himself that doesn't exist or has nothing in it. And that he's not in.
Not in any way part of it. Yeah.
I'm definitely not releasing it because I'm not in it. No, it doesn't make sense. Sorry. Still not making sense.
The Newsagents. This is a Global Player original podcast.